Welcome to Canadian Justice. I'm Christine Van Gyn, and today we're talking about Bill C-11, a new bill to update the Broadcasting Act that's now on its way to the Senate. The legislation has come under fire for a number of reasons. One significant reason is that it appears as though the new law would empower government to regulate user-generated content like Facebook videos, TikToks, YouTube, user-generated and uploaded content, and Instagram. The bill was introduced in the last parliament as Bill C-10, and the government tried to rush the legislation through because of a snap election that was looming. But now, with no election in sight, the government has once again restricted debate and is rushing it again. The question is why? Here to talk about what the bill does and some of the concerns around it are two legal experts, Professor Michael Geist from the University of Ottawa School of Law and Rosa Addario from Open Media. Thank you both so much for joining me today. Professor Geist, let's start with the beginning. What is the bill supposed to do? What's the stated purpose? What's it trying to achieve?
Well, when you listen to the government, and first off, thanks for having me. When you listen to the government, they say this was all about bringing in the large streaming services into the Canadian system, the Netflix and Disney's of the world, and making sure that they contribute to CanCon. Yet along the way, it took a detour, and earlier exceptions from the last bill that would have excluded user-generated content then were taken out in the last bill. In this bill, an exception was put back in, but a new exception to the exception was added. Bottom line, there are real concerns, and this has been echoed by many digital creators. It's been echoed by the platforms themselves, the TikToks and YouTubes of the world, that a significant amount of that user-generated content can be caught by the legislation, and the CRTC has in fact confirmed that that's the case. And so while it may have started as a bill focused on large streaming services, its implications have extended far broader by treating the content of millions of Canadians as potentially subject to these regulations.
Professor Geist, why would the government want to regulate user-generated content, though? What would be achieved from that?
Yeah, well, the government says they don't. What they say is what they want to do is capture things like professional music on services like YouTube or TikTok to ensure that those platforms pay. But of course, there certainly could be a way to say we want to ensure that there is contributions, or there are contributions from these platforms, but that we leave aside the whole regulatory approach. Because what we've learned through some of these hearings and from expert witnesses is that you simply can't easily separate out the so-called professional music from so much of the other content. You know, TikTok, for example, has taken a look at the way the legislation is crafted and come to the conclusion that all TikTok videos featuring music are caught by the act.
Yeah, I mean, TikTok, it's usually the idea is like a very popular song and people will do a dance to it. Ms. Addario, what can you say about some concerns you might have with this bill?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. Like Mr. Geist has said, one of our major concerns is with user-generated content being included in the bill. So as it stands now, the bill gives the CRTC regulatory authority over all the public audiovisual content on any online platform that generates revenue, which, as I'm sure you can imagine, pretty much encompasses a lot of the content that we see online. So from the user side, the search results and the feeds on these platforms will decrease in value. They will be less tailored to what you want to see and more fit for the requirements of the bill. We see that the user-generated content is included under the CRTC broadcasting regulatory control, despite our heritage minister, Mr. Rodriguez, saying that it will not be included. We see, on the other hand, that the chair of the CRTC has been very clear about the fact that it will be included. So we're seeing a lot of contradictions in the bill.
Professor Geist, this is one of the things that confuses me so much about this debate, is that the government continues to say, no, we're not doing this. The CRTC kind of says something else, and then the stakeholders, you know, I'm a stakeholder. I have a YouTube channel of my own, all have different concerns. I mean, what is happening? Like, where is the truth and why is it so hard to get to?
Yeah, I don't have a good answer for what we've seen. All I know is that I recently tweeted saying that at this stage, it would be easier for the heritage minister to simply say that he denies everything the CRTC chair has said and might say about Bill C-11 because he's been contradicted so much. So he's been contradicted on user content. He's been contradicted now on whether or not algorithms may be at stake or at play as part of this legislation. And I've said, it's hard to avoid the conclusion that the government simply engaged in gaslighting on this. They've had so many witnesses, they've had so many experts take a look at the legislation, say there are reasons for concerns,
Yeah.
and yet they continue to maintain otherwise.
It feels a little bit like that. We've got to go to commercial break, but we'll be right back.